The original sin is mankind's conception of ownership and indeed, our reaction to God's ownership of Eden. Eden was a reality created and governed by God as owner. All that Eden was and could be, was created by God and was owned by God. This is and was the golden age that is still hardwired into our consciousness. God and man were at peace and all that was real was aligned. The simplest way to understand sin is as an incidence of freeloading. Man claimed what was not his and desired to enjoy what he did not create. Claiming what does not belong to us is theft, when the freeloading has been made illegal. Freeloaders externalize costs onto society and future generations. But little of it is illegal. When we steal, we establish a right of ownership over a piece of property we did not create. But what constitutes theft varies from society to society and from time to time. But freeloading is not relative or contextual. Ownership gives us rights over property. Ownership or a claim of ownership to what we did not create is freeloading. The ability to control access to physical property is what the world calls power. What is more, ownership gives us power over anyone dependent on that property. Ownership of a garden plot only gives us limited rights. No one is likely to be dependent on a garden plot for anything. A claim made to a state or continent or even to a major natural resource gives the owner a considerable amount of power. Once we have achieved power over others, we can impose duties on them. These duties define the conditions under which they can use the property we own. These duties that owners impose on dependents are issued as regulations, codes of conduct or organizational rules. Rules and regulations can range from regulations governing our national borders to rules that subjugate another human being to a slave owner. If you have no ability to feed, clothe, or shelter yourself, because you have zero property and no right to access any property, you are a powerless human being. The owner of property will lay out the rules you must follow, if you wish to access the food, housing, clothing, and water he controls. The level of fealty you will be required to demonstrate to an owner will be proportionate to your level of dependency. Any freedom you are given is given as a gift and can be rescinded. Once you own property, you have power. If the other person does not have property, they lack power. Your ownership and the other person's poverty creates a power disparity. Power disparities can be exploited to give you more power, as the property owner. The power the property owner has and their dependency of the weak on your property enables you to impose duties on them that benefit you. Their duty of service is your right to be served by them. This is the essence of inequality. Original sin created inequality and the mechanism by which it could and would spread, because original sin created the conditions under which property ownership could be claimed independent of the act of creation. Ownership is the original sin and democracy is the straight and narrow path to fascism. These are the realities that were produced by the rise of liberalism in Eden. Democracy is the mechanism by which rights are ceded to a fascist. Fascism is the centralization of rights into a single ownership icon or god. Democracy creates gods and fascism is the religion. When we discuss politics, we are talking about egregorism. Politics is an occultic God-creating process using the group mind. Voting is occultic in that it uses mobs to manifest a false god. The fascist leader contains all rights and powers unto himself. Rulers imposes all duties on his subjects. The political leader is Egregor, for he is a manifestation of the people's will. Without democracy we would have equality, unless we had a tyranny. Democracy was the stopgap measure implemented to stop the overthrow of tyranny devolving down into equality. What democracy does is neutralize the tyrannical leader's power and moves the community to a hypothetical equality. Everyone gets to vote. Prospective leaders all debate and display their zeitgeist or their conception of the prevailing spirit of the times. The debate releases or is meant to release the egregor of the people, the spirit of the people. Zeitgeist is the spirit that appears to prevail or that reflects the time we are in. It is captured or attempted to be manifested in the speeches and presentation of individual leaders. But it is the will of the people that brings forth the egregor. Egregor is the God of the people as manifest in the will of the people. The people's will defines the structure and character of the egregor, the leader that becomes God manifest. Now sin is costs downloaded onto the person's soul. A sin is a cost the offender cannot pay, but it is still his or her sin to bear, without the intervening grace of our Lord Jesus Christ. But evil is a cost downloaded onto society and future generations that is paid, but paid by the wrong ones. Sin primarily offends God because it corrupts what belongs to God and harms or lessens its and our purpose. Evil destroys value in a more general sense than sin does. Evil works to destroy the ability of man to fulfill the purpose of man, which is to create value. Creating value and fulfilling the purpose of man is also known as building the church. Believers are the church, and to build the church is not simply adding to our numbers, it is adding value to our body, as a body of believers. The believer adds communal value, not personal value. But the question must then be asked, how do we build the church and fulfill our purpose using the mechanisms of the present system? The spirit of the age is greed, and the zeitgeist called upon is always a form of personal benefit. This is nothing if not the age of greed. The spirit of avarice has been let loose to roam free. Satan loves materialism and its assumption there are no metaphysical entities. Not only does the naturalist view hide God, it disguises the activity of the satanic forces operating in the world. Satan is less worried about people believing in God than he is of mankind becoming aware of the forces active in his name, on this plane. If the forces of evil stand on a foundation composed of ownership and ownership rights, then democracy is nothing more than a way to harness the will of the people to an agenda created by the rulers of darkness. The right of the people to vote is the power of the elected to act as a trustee given power of attorney, so the property of the people becomes the power of the few to regulate the many. Democracy shifts rights uphill and duty downhill. The democratic process culminates in fascism. All rights are within the state and all duties are contained in the citizenry. This is spiritual wickedness in the highest places. To combat this evil, the people need more than democracy. In fact, the people need more than the right to vote. The people are not a uniform entity. There is a division between people. The significant division is not between the ruled and the ruler, though this is what the demons want us to believe. The real division is between the freeloader and the purposeful. The ruled and the rulers contain those who embrace freedom as freeloading and those who work to create value. All those in government and occupied in business management and financial services are freeloaders. Nothing is more demonic than the idea that money works for us. There is no money working for us, there are only people, and we are them. The rest are freeloaders. Voting has only one purpose, and that is to circumvent and invalidate the purpose of man. Democracy exists on the assumption mankind is devoid of purpose. Egregor is the artificial formation of purpose manufactured from a zeitgeist, or the manipulated will of the people. Did not Satan tempt Jesus with a set of false purposes which Jesus recognized as a test of God's grace, a misapprehension of priorities, and the formation of egregor or a false god? If mankind has a purpose, it cannot be established by popular opinion nor by bestowing on one human being rights belonging to entire community. No person is able to assign purpose to his fellow man, not even by referring to them as duties. Purpocracy is the rule of the purposeful or the rule of those with purpose. Another way of thinking about this is a community guided by the creation of value and those who are the authors of what has value. These are not freeloaders. The purposeful have the right to rule because we are the ones who produce the wealth and all we rule is what we ourselves have created.